Was this sort of an opportunity for Israel to show its force? Or do you think in that video they were trying to show a lack of collateral damage? And I ask that because I know that in our official statement, President Obama apparently, in the State Department, apparently urged Netanyahu to avoid civilian casualties. Now, the irony of us asking them to do that with our drone program, of what drone program, I think is palpable. But I'm wondering what you made of their very sort of media-savvy propaganda machine.
It's running an information operation using social media, using the open source. I think that SE touches on both of those issues. I think it shows, one, people on the ground, Hamas operatives on the ground, we can get at you. Don't think that you're going to be able to fire rockets at us with impunity.
We're taking credit.
This is going both ways now. That's right. They're sending a very clear message there, but also showing exactly that on the street. As we know, a lot of times you'll see after a strike, even if it's a targeted strike, operatives running around saying, or just people in the street saying that there were all these men were civilians, for example, and that there's all this collateral damage. And you won't necessarily see pictures of it. Sometimes you will. It depends on what it is. But this is a way to sort of get around that, to sort of look. He was in this car. We know it's the guy. We took out this car. You didn't see an entire building collapse here. So I do think that's a poignant point for them. But, you know, Eric, you talked about Hezbollah and how they're already engaged in Syria. Some analysts are looking at this and they're saying that this could be a game changer actually within Syria, that this may actually sort of take some of the focus off of Assad's regime, that there may be forces embattled in Syria right now who will say, look, we've got to actually focus on Israel. As we know, there have been some rockets fired into Israel from Syria. How do you see that playing out, that sort of Syrian civil war component of this whole chessboard we're looking at?
Look, the unfortunate truth is that as much attention as Syria has gotten internationally, diplomatically, none of that attention has really changed the situation on the ground there. I mean, it hasn't led to any real move to take out Assad, any real move to support the opposition there. So I don't think a diversion of attention from Syria now onto Gaza really changed the situation in Syria. I think regardless, in Syria, you're going to have a drawn-out civil war that could take a while. You know, yes, if Hezbollah is brought into this conflict with Israel, that would obviously strengthen the opposition in Syria because Hezbollah is fighting that opposition. But quite frankly, I don't see it changing much unless, and here's a possibility, unless Assad gets involved in this by continuing to fire rockets over the Golan. But again, I don't really see that as a strong possibility. It's certainly a possibility.
So Eric Traeger, Amy Holmes here. Let me ask you then about the Sinai Peninsula. Some analysts are saying that could indeed become a flashpoint. We know that there have been rocket attacks into Israel from Sinai, that it has been flooded with smugglers, al-Qaeda affiliated militants, and apparently Ayman al-Zawahiri has very much applauded attacks on Israel from the Sinai. Could you see at least a limited conflict there on that bit of Egyptian soil?
Well, one thing that I'm fairly sure of is that, you know, Israel is going to do everything it can to prevent this conflict from spilling into the Sinai. Will certainly try to control itself and prevent any of its own ordnance from making it to the Sinai, because it really doesn't want to give Morsi, the president of Egypt, any excuse for using its conflict with Hamas to break off relations with Israel. So I think that for sure terrorist groups operating in Gaza will continue to try to get weapons through the Sinai, try to strike Israel from Sinai, to engage Israel and Egypt. But I think that in this particular conflict, Israel is going to be extremely cautious because, Morsi has put troops in Sinai on alert. The military in Egypt has said that it does not want to get involved in any unplanned wars. It's urging caution. And I think that Israel is going to do the same.
Hey, Buck, it's hard not to picture Israel walking through this crisis like someone in a dark hall who is blindfolded. I mean, what does the world look like for Israel right now? What geopolitical calculations are they having to take into account? Because Eric talked about the fact that they don't want to damage their relationship with Egypt. What relationship with Egypt? Didn't the relationship with Egypt just change dramatically? And as you mentioned, Syria on another doorstep. What's that entire mess going to look like and how it plays into this? It just seems to me now Israel is dealing with an issue that they've dealt with for decades now, right? This Palestinian problem. But it now exists in a world that never existed prior to this particular instance.
Well, when you're talking about, their considerations for Egypt, you have seen the consolidation of power by hardliners. Any action right now that Israel takes even if it's fair, even if, as S.E. points out, it's very targeted, is going to inflame the Salafists in Egypt, is going to give them something to be upset about, something to protest about, and it will push their politics, which are already moving in this negative direction, further that way against Israel. So they're trying to be cognizant of that. I think the point you raised, Will, and this is the broader issue, as we look into the trajectories here, the trajectory in Syria, where the Muslim Brotherhood may come out on top after Assad, certainly the trajectory we already know about in Egypt. You look at Hezbollah up in Lebanon, which is essentially the state now. These are unfriendly regimes to Israel. Some of them are avowed enemies of Israel, and they are now turning their guns, and they're all facing in one direction. So this is incredibly concerning stuff. I think Eric's right. They're going to try to sort of deal with this as best they can without making things spill out and get worse. But it may not necessarily be in their control in 3, 6, 9 months. We could see something that gets much wider and broader.